The beginning phase is what they call love bombing. And I think a lot of people have heard this if they start doing research on narcissists. And this is when that narcissist comes into your life and they are literally glorifying you from head to toe. I mean, if it's a business partner, it's your ideas are so aligned with mine. We were meant to be. The universe put us together. Like, we're going to make millions. I mean, they literally put you on a silver platter and just charm you to the point where you're like, wow, like God sent me this wonderful person.
Welcome to the Impact Effect podcast, and we've got an amazing guest. We're here inside the Honeypot studio at Music City Work Club, and Dorothy Vaughn is in the building. She is a high conflict negotiation coach under the Slay program with Rebecca Zung, and this is her second appearance on the podcast because the first time, she crushed it. Please help me welcome Dorothy Vaughn to the Impact Effect podcast.
Hi, Jim. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you. I'm fired up. Like, last episode was just so enlightening, so much knowledge. We had so many good comments. So many people reached out, and we're going to do it again. We're going to run it back.
I'm super excited.
All right. So just like true Impact Effect podcast fashion, I am going to ask Dorothy the same question I ask everybody. What is an impactful moment in your life that changed everything for the future?
Wow, it's such a powerful, packed question. I have really thought about recently what I've gone through. It's not something from a long time ago. So I'm going to talk about my recent impactful moment. And it's an analogy that I can share with you that has to do with your purpose in life and living in the valley and trying to climb up the mountain. And when I talk about that analogy, what I'm really saying is that with us having a purpose, we learn and we grow in the valley. That's kind of where we are groomed and we are nurtured and we are pruned. And if you think about the valley, it's kind of where most people don't want to be because they're trying to get to the top of the mountain. And the valley is really a beautiful place if you can embrace it in your life and accept the lessons that you're learning and the trials that you go through. And so when you think about the valley is a place where there's a lot of growth. There's trees and flowers, of course, seasonality, but there's also flowing streams of water. There is also wildlife. There's living in the valley is a beautiful place that I think we don't understand fully, and we embrace it. So our goal is to try to get up the mountain, but if we don't have the lessons and the tools and the strength and the confidence that we learn in the valley, we will never be able to climb up the mountain. What will happen is we'll want to get to the top of the mountain without learning what our purpose is. And it's like we're carrying this huge boulder up the mountain. And when you get up to the top of the mountain, let's just analyze that. When you're at the top of the mountain, it's a beautiful, majestic view, right? It's like, I've arrived, I feel accomplished. This is a beautiful place to be on the top of the mountain, but you really don't stay on the top of the mountain. Once you get that majestic view, you're ready to climb down the other side of the mountain. And let's be honest, as opposed to the valley, the mountain doesn't have all of the growth and the beauty, like the trees and all the flowers and stuff like that. Most of that is in the valley. So I think when I learned, because I've been in the valley for a long period of time, there's been a lot of lessons that I've had to learn over the last 5 or 6 years. And I was blinded by the beauty of the valley and how grateful I am for the lessons in the valley. And so now that I can take those lessons in the valley, I'm ready to start climbing up that mountain and serving my purpose.
It's such an amazing way to describe life and seasons and struggles and experiential nuggets of knowledge that we learn along the way. And obviously I've understood like the mountaintop and the valley, but how you talk about this and the granular details of the valley. Like I've never actually sat in it as much as you just described.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a beautiful place. But when you're going through a trial in the valley, that's where I think you don't realize what is around you. So you're kind of blinded by the beauty of the valley because a lot of times the hard lessons, they're not fun. You know, we don't want to go through those hard times, but there's so much beauty in that we miss. And I think once you are in the valley for a long time, because I know like when I get up to the top of the mountain, let's say I go back in the valley again, I have a different perspective of what that valley experience is like because I didn't even really know I was in the valley until I really kind of dug into like, where am I at in life? Like, what is this?
It's funny because as you're saying this, I'm thinking like, okay, I've had a couple businesses fail over the last 7, 8 years. And when you're in it and that failure happens, when the business partnership, you know, disintegrates and you move on to the next thing, you're like, why me? And this was so bad and it hurt. And blah. But then I come to these new opportunities and I start to see like, oh, that's not a good business or that's not a good partnership. And then months go by and I see someone that I would potentially partner with go and do something crazy or do something that's not aligned with my core values or
Right.
something that I would be super embarrassed about if we were in business together or we were in partnership together. And I think, thank God that I had that experience and I can now identify some of those red flags. And I didn't just cover up or not want to look at the red flags because I saw green flags. I actually said, no, let's not do that. Or I'm not going to move forward. And it was a great decision, even though it was tough in the moment.
Yeah.
It was tough to say no or to not go that way.
Yeah.
But it was the right choice. It just took time for me to realize how much of the right choice it was.
Exactly.
Have you ever been in those situations, or is there an example you could share from learning in the valley, and even though it's hard and how it's gotten you to the mountaintop in some ways?
Yeah, I think like a lot of like my time that I've spent in the valley has been I'm ready to climb up that mountain. I don't want to be here anymore. I feel like I've done my time, but there's a purpose in why you're there. And sometimes it's longer or shorter. It depends on how much you're embracing the lesson. You know, sometimes you just want, I know it, I got it. Like, this is fine. I'm ready to go. But I am faith-based, and I believe that God will give you the signals and the time for you to move on and that you're ready. You've learned those lessons. And when you're not, you're going to stay in that valley and continue to learn that lesson over and over again until you have built up that massive strength to get up that mountain. Because if you don't, like I said, you're never going to get up the mountain because you're basically going to be carrying a boulder, a huge, enormous boulder. You're going to take 2 steps, you're going to fall back. 4 more steps, fall back. Because you literally can't carry a boulder up a mountain.
You're just not ready.
Yeah, you're not ready.
And we think we're ready sometimes.
That's right.
What's an example of something you thought you were ready for and realized that boulder was too heavy and you had to spend some more time working on it?
Yeah, I think most of it, like we talked about in the last time we met, was just relationships. Like just really understanding safe people. So when I was in the valley, there were still lots of people coming in my life that weren't healthy for me. Right?
I remember you sharing that. Yeah.
So it's a process to learn, and you will know when you have nailed it. You're ready, and you have picked out the red flags, and you know the people that are safe for you and healthy for you. And then if you don't, then you're going to go through that trial and that series of learning the lesson with that person. And there will be a lesson in each unsafe person that comes into your life. And I think that you're given those lessons for a reason, because you're to master having this perfect life of people around that are there for you and are going to be, you're going to thrive in your circle.
With your work under Rebecca and what you're navigating, do you think that was an opportunity for you to learn that knowledge and then start to move up that mountain?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I feel like Rebecca Zung was an amazing, amazing experience for me. I had reached out to her because she just had so much knowledge about narcissists and high conflict individuals. And so I knew that that was a theme in my life. So when I reached out to her and I was really ready to embrace what she had to teach me, that's when it kind of opened the door. You know, I was in the Valley for a long time when I met her. And I continued to stay in the Valley as I went through her program. But now that I have the tools that she's given me and a lot of the knowledge, now I can apply that to the certain examples in my life that have kept me in the Valley. And now I feel like with her tools, it's going to help me strengthen myself to get up that mountain.
When you started to gain that new knowledge and work with her, like, were you just at the end all be all and you're like, I just need to like really dive into this? Like, bring me back to that
So,
moment
yeah.
where you just was like, I need to learn this stuff. I need to acquire these skills. Bring us back there for a second.
I think the reason why she stands out is because there isn't a lot of people out there that truly understands high conflict individuals, specifically narcissistic personality disorders. It's such a subject of depth. It takes a long time to really understand it and research it. And she really, really knew it very well. And I think when I met her, it was during like the COVID pandemic, and she really tapped into an audience of people that were so confused as to what was going on in their lives that that's how I really gravitated towards her, because I'm like, here's someone that understands. You know, when you meet somebody and you come across a new relationship or a friend and they share with you that they've been in this narcissistic abuse relationship, it's like an instant chemistry. It's like, oh my gosh, this person gets me. They understand me. And that's kind of where I think she tapped into just an enormous audience, like, oh my gosh, somebody knows what I'm going through. You know, so that's kind of where that whole relationship bloomed over that.
And with that, COVID was a great time to acquire new
Yes.
education. I think a lot of us realized, in the workplace, there is a lot of narcissism occurring, right? And it's like, we kind of work from home, so maybe we experienced it a little bit less because it wasn't like
Or
in our
you were with a
face.
partner that, a romantic partner that you were trapped with in a narcissistic abuse. That's what happened
Ooh.
in COVID with romantic relationships. And there is a spike. You'll see that the divorce rate went up like right post COVID because of being trapped in the house with a narcissistic partner.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of COVID like that. I was more
Mhm.
thinking like, hey, this feels good because I don't have this narcissistic boss up my ass all the time.
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking like,
Or even
whoa, I got to stay home with a narcissist all day, my spouse, and I don't like this. This isn't working for me.
no. And then there's also, there's also family. Like, so let's just say it's parents with children or older children that are still living at home and they've got a narcissistic parent. There's also that. And, mental health really kind of went through the roof during COVID. We know that because the pandemic itself affected us, but also being in relationships with people that weren't healthy, you were forced into that during that time period.
It's almost like this realization that we didn't even know was happening because of the minimal time spent with, because we spend so much time at work. But then now we're on the flip and we're spending so much time at home. We're seeing it. And it's not just this like one-off stressed out thing after work. This is happening all day, every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, when you talk about narcissism, I know you gave us some tools and some skills in the last episode. If you didn't check back on Impact Effect Podcast, would highly recommend you rewatch that episode. It was one of our most downloaded episodes. And I had so many comments and just so many amazing people reaching out. So I'd advise you to go back and search and check that episode out. But you had talked about some tools, some things that you could do. And you were telling me a little bit earlier about these stages of narcissism, these cycles that occur. Can you tell us a little bit about those cycles and kind of break that down for us?
Yeah. So, I mean, we talked about the spectrum, like you said, the different types of narcissists and, you know, what that looked like in our lives and how it can come in different forms of friends and employees that we work with, romantic partners. But I think when people are confused whether they're in a relationship with a narcissist is because what happens is they get into what we call this narcissistic abuse cycle. And there's 4 phases of it. And you kind of move around this circle based on how the narcissist behaves and pulls you through that pattern. And it's basically that narcissistic abuse cycle is what it's developed around their psyche. This is how they navigate through this understanding of how I'm going to use this person as a source of supply. Because that's really their ultimate goal is I have to have a piece of supply in front of me to feed my psyche.
Ooh, use this person as a piece of their supply to feed their psyche. Ooh, we're getting into it. All right. I don't want to cut you off. Keep going.
So this cycle has 4 phases. And the reason why I feel like it's really important for everybody to understand what this cycle looks like, when I was in these relationships, I had no idea that this cycle existed. All I saw was all good and all bad. But there actually is a pattern and a cycle that you get pulled around in. And if you can understand it fully, then you're not so confused and you don't feel like this foggy brain, like what's happening to me. And you can actually learn how to strategize. How do I get out of this cycle? Or if I can't get out of the cycle, where do I want to be? What phase do I want to be in and stay in with this narcissist? So the beginning phase is what they call love bombing. And I think a lot of people have heard this if they start doing research on narcissists. And this is when that narcissist comes into your life and they are literally glorifying you from head to toe. I mean, if it's a business partner, it's your ideas are so aligned with mine. We were meant to be. The universe put us together. Like, we're going to make millions. I mean, they literally put you on a silver platter and just charm you to the point where you're like, wow, like God sent me this wonderful person. This is amazing. You know, in romantic partnerships, it's the same thing. It's we're soulmates. I've been waiting for you my entire life. I've never met anybody like you. And there's a charm level, right? So that comes in this love bombing phase. And it's very easy for people to fall for that because everybody wants to feel good. They want to feel like they found somebody that's meant for them, right?
It's almost like they're using that charm to get you like sucked in or pulled in, hooked.
Hooked is the word, yeah. So that love bombing phase, I think when you first meet that person, it can last for a period of time. I would say give it some months, you know, because they're brand new. You're brand new to them. They're trying to study you and figure you out. What makes you smile? That's the love bombing that they're going to put in front of you.
So maybe a new business partner or a new relationship, maybe you don't sign an agreement month 1, you give it, you know, a couple months, or maybe you don't, you know, run off to Vegas and get married 3 weeks in. You give it a few months. Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of when they come in really, really strong. Okay. And they want things to move really, really fast because, like you're saying, they're trying to hook you into this, you know, life of theirs, right? So love bombing is the first phase. The second phase is what they call the devalue phase. So once they've got you hooked in, then you shift into devalue. And that's where the majority of the abuse is going to start. So the mask comes down. You are now worthless. You are everything that you weren't in the love bombing phase.
It's like to the complete opposite. Yeah.
The complete opposite. And not only that, but they'll also use like things that they learned about you that you're vulnerable with. Maybe there's some lack of confidence or weakness or some vulnerability there. They will attach those to that devalue phase. And they will use that as a tool and a weapon to just tear you down, make you feel horrible about yourself. And so that's the devalue phase. Okay. That's a hard phase for people to be in.
With that phase, it's almost like, and I talk about this when in some of the speeches I've given around human connection and vulnerability, it's like everybody, we went through this phase a couple of years ago. It was like, be vulnerable, tell everybody what's going on. And I appreciate that, but you have to be vulnerable with the right people.
Absolutely. Very, very important, Jim. You have to be vulnerable with safe people, not unsafe people.
And it takes time to understand safety with a relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the devalue phase is, like I said, is the most abusive part of the process. And it can be very confusing because you're like, how could I go from this person was like glorifying me to now I'm like the enemy? It's like a black and white thinking. Like I am just this horrible person that they hate. And this is where the gaslighting comes in, because then you start denying your reality. And then they say things like, I never said that, or I didn't do that. No, I didn't. And now you're the one that's looking like you're crazy. And so this is the phase where you have to be really careful, because the more you defend yourself, the more it escalates. And what a narcissist is trying to do is just provoke a reaction in this phase so that they make you look like the bad person based on your reaction, not the problem they created.
I'm thinking about two people right now as you're saying this. I'm like, oh, it's happening to me in one way or shape or form.
Yeah.
These stages are very interesting because I'm literally going through chronological order of like, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. You're great. This is great. You're doing so much great stuff. And then it's like, this, that, and the other thing is happening, and you're not doing this, and it's because of this. And then it's like, okay, well, I never said that, or that never happened. And it's like, what? These are in messages.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I go back and I look at the messages and I'm like, all right, I'm not crazy.
Right.
Like, this is what you said.
Yeah,
this
they're
is what you
gaslighting.
advised. This is what the scenario was. Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's the gaslighting. And that's popular in the devalue phase. And so the one thing I can share is the most important lesson that you can learn in the devalue phase is do not defend or argue. Because the narcissist knows you're right. They just want to sit back and watch you go crazy trying to prove yourself.
My bad. I like to argue. Yeah. I like to prove sometimes.
So that's
because I feel like it's like you're trying to steal my integrity almost, right? And I'm like, no. I have integrity. Like I do. This is the truth. I just want to get to the truth, and it feeds it almost. It's like it's like you're putting fresh kindle on the fire. You know?
Yeah. And it's normal to do that. Like I would say, like in the beginning, like if you're still learning about this person, it's okay to like have a couple of times in the devalue phase where you're like trying to figure it out. Like, is this a narcissist? Are they unsafe? Are they a red flag? Like, I'm going to defend myself, but let's just see how this plays out. And then if you see those patterns, like we're talking about in a narcissist, then like, okay, this person is a narcissist. I'm not going to waste my time in this devalue phase. I want to get to the next phase and I'd be out.
Because it's not worth the stress and anxiety of staying in this back and forth because you're not going to win. Am I hearing that correctly?
You won't win. Winning means not giving the narcissist the supply that they want.
Ooh.
So that is a victory when you don't defend yourself and you don't argue and you don't take the bait, really, is what it is. Don't take the bait.
Am I a narcissist if I like to argue?
No.
Okay. All right.
No, you're not a narcissist.
I'm like, am I pushing back too much? No, I just trying to support myself.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to support the truth or my truth, And I could be wrong. I'm not perfect.
Healthy arguing is fine. Everybody wants to debate and argue and come to a good conclusion. That's normal. That type of argument looks different than the devalue phase. The devalue phase is the narcissist is right, you're always wrong, and I'm going to get you so mad so you can try to defend yourself and make yourself look crazy, and then I'm going to gaslight you.
Got it. Got it. Okay, keep going. Keep going. This is juicy. This is juicy, folks.
Okay, so the devalue phase, again, very careful. Be very careful in that phase. Like that's very, very important. The next phase is called the discard phase. So this is when the epic conflict happened. They feel like they got their source of supply. You know, they may have won the argument. You defended yourself. You argued. You got upset. They gaslit you, and then they blamed you for your reaction. Now you're discarded. You're worthless. I don't want nothing to do with you. I'm out. You know, they go black. You know, they're dark. You know, they don't return your phone calls. You don't see them anymore, and they just basically shut you out completely. And that's the discard phase. That phase, I will tell you, if you have to be in this cycle, that's the phase you probably want to stay in. Because once you're discarded, they're checked out. They will pull you back into the cycle again, and I'll talk about the last phase. But if you can like stay in that phase and find a way to not continue on in the cycle, that's the safest place to be. Because basically a narcissist is going to find another source of supply to pull them back into that cycle if you don't move on to the next phase. So the next phase is called hoovering. And we talked about this last time. It's named after the vacuum, which is to suck you in. And hoovering is when they've discarded you and then they come back and say, you know what, I was wrong. I'm so sorry. You know, let's try this over again. You know, maybe I said things I didn't mean, you know, but you reacted this way, but we need to work together to try to build this relationship again. And let me take you out to dinner. Let me show you a new idea I have for business. You know, let's go on a date. Let's take a trip. Like it's a hoovering to try to get you sucked back in to this cycle. Okay. And a lot of times if people don't know that they're in this cycle, they fall for it. Well, he made a mistake. You know, if you're an empathetic person, you know, I want to give him a chance. You know, like everybody gets chances, right? Let's just try this over again and let's just see what happens.
We're in this grace culture, I think, where we want to give grace. And I think grace is great, right? Yeah. And I think we do need to give grace. But, and I am someone personally, and maybe I'm the unicorn here, but I think I give a little bit too much. And it's like, well, what are the facts? Right. The facts are I was hurt. The facts are this is the third time around. What do I know? You know, a good friend of mine, she's like, in those situations, Jim, what do you know to be true? Mm-hmm. Like, just remove the emotion, remove the opinion. What is the truth? The truth is this happened and you didn't like it and you felt like, you know, you were getting the short end of the stick. Mm-hmm. And then you said, okay, and you gave grace. And mm-hmm. you said, okay, maybe it's a bad day, maybe it's a bad week, maybe something's going on. And then 2 weeks later, this very similar thing happened, right?
Right.
And you gave grace, Jim. You did. You said, okay, you know, and you looked inward, right? Because we were having this conversation and she's like, did you look inward? And I was like, to my detriment, sometimes yes, a little bit too much, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm like, okay, it's my fault. I always want to look this in before I do this, right? And third time around, and I'm still feeling like this guilt of like not giving enough grace, right? And she's like, this is the truth. This is the third time. Like, you're giving too much grace sometimes, you know? So I think we need to give grace. I love to give grace. I think just for me, sometimes it's like, I have to remind myself, what is the truth here? Like, what cycle of this are we on?
Right.
Where I didn't like it the first time. It didn't feel good the second time. The third time it's happening again. Do I need to give another chance or opportunity, or can I just move on? You know, and I think that's for me, it's a hard decision for me.
So I think what you're talking about really is trust, you know, and when you think about trust, its actions speak louder than words. People can tell you all day long that this is how I'm going to be. I promise I'll do this. I promise I won't do this. I promise things will be better. This is how I'm going to change. Words are words. That's just words. They're empty. Words are empty unless you see the action attached to the words. And so the best advice I can give people at that phase is, because I feel like in the hoovering part is where you start to learn your boundaries of trust, right? So learn what your boundaries are, what you are not going to put up with. And can this person respect your boundaries? If they can't and they continuously do the same thing again, then they are someone that you can't trust. And one thing I can tell you is that boundaries are so important in relationships because it's really about like self-love, right? It's about what's acceptable for me, right? So anybody that doesn't respect your boundaries is someone that was taking advantage of you because you didn't have any boundaries.
Ooh, that's the mic drop right there. How do you put up boundaries? How do you communicate boundaries in a maybe intense hoovering situation?
Boundaries are, with narcissists, it's a little bit different to develop boundaries than they are with regular safe people. Regular safe people, they can take advantage of your boundaries, but it's not like a treacherous experience, right? So with a narcissist, sometimes you need to be really careful with how you communicate your boundaries. Sometimes you don't want to tell them this is my boundary because then they know how to provoke you and get you upset because they want to walk over your boundary. So if you express what your boundary is, that's an opportunity for them to take advantage of you. So you kind of have to set internal boundaries. Like, this is what I'm going to expect with this person. And this is my boundary, and I'm just going to be silent with it. And I'm not going to give them any information about my boundary. And it will just be behavior, like body behavior, not verbal. But with a non-narcissist, obviously you can put up very clear boundaries. And if someone respects it, then you know they're a good person for you.
It's interesting because my definition prior to our conversation, and you're just an absolute whiz at this, of a boundary would only be communicated.
Not with a narcissist.
And that would be terrible if I did that with a narcissist.
Yeah, a boundary with a narcissist is like, I think it was Dr. Ramani. I watched her. She's a psychologist, is an expert on narcissism. She says it's akin to hugging a porcupine, communicating a boundary with a narcissist, because they do not respect your boundaries. And when you let them know what your boundaries are, that gives them more power to provoke you and cause conflict because they want to step over your boundary to have that argument.
They can almost like thread the line and jump back and forth on each side and see where it benefits them most. You know what I mean? Like, can you poke the bear a little bit more and get away with it? You know?
Yeah.
With this work, with your experience in your own life, where do you see most narcissists on this scale? Like, where do they spend the most time, or where has maybe some of your clients felt like they were stuck in which one of these phases?
I would say the devalue phase is probably the one that most people get stuck in, and they don't know how to get out, or they're not effectively, I guess, conquering that phase like we talked about, because the phase is very confusing. Like, most people, when they're being attacked, it's like they have fight or flight, right? So they're, some people, they'll just run, and some people want to defend themselves. And that's just an inherent in our DNA as humans. That's what we want to do. But that type of behavior doesn't work with a narcissist. So you have to reprogram your brain when you're stuck in that devalue phase. And so a lot of people I've seen in the workplace that are stuck in that devalue phase is this constant battle with ideas and projects and just stalling the process because they just want to provoke and get mad at this person who's on the project. And it's just all this conflict and just fury going on teams. And that part I've seen so many times in the workplace. I can't even tell you how many.
And in a lot of those cases, you can't just run in the workplace because you have tenure or you have equity or you have, worked so hard to get your dream role and you get it and you've got this narcissistic boss. How do you navigate that? Do you throw away everything you've built? Some people will say, yeah, and there's another solution, there's another opportunity. But I think a lot of people are just trying to navigate it and just reduce the harm.
Yeah. I think like the first steps, I think if you're in like a corporation, obviously HR is a place that you can go to. I always say document every single experience that you have with a narcissist, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's a friend, whether it's a romantic partner, because that information is going to help you long term. But in the workplace, HR is really the tool to go to report things that are happening. Now, does HR understand it? Probably not. I think that there's a deficit there. I think most of their conflict workshops are like two parties coming together and arguing and not agreeing on an idea. And we have to understand that it only takes one person to create conflict. You don't have to have two. So I think that
Takes one person to create conflict. You don't have to have two. I never thought of it that way.
That's right. So if HR or a corporation can build models around that and identify where the cancer is in the organization, then they can fix a lot of this stuff. Because what they can do is they can say, okay, we're going to have specific rules for this narcissist. You have to do A, B, C, D, and E. And if you're not following those rules, you're out. So they can actually find a formula to try to get rid of that cancer, because there's a lot of high performing jerks out there in the corporation. And that's what they see it as. Oh, well, it's just a high performing jerk. No, it's more than that. It's deeper than that.
And in my corporate experience, I've just watched the CEO or the CFO or the COO just completely rule over HR.
Yeah.
Like it's like, no, this is what's happening. And then there's fright because those narcissistic occurrences are happening with the director of
Yes.
HR or the chief HR or, whatever that title is.
Right. So HR has to be very careful from a legal perspective to make sure that they're documenting everything and they're setting very specific rules on that high performing jerk. So that, because they're not going to be let go because of their performance. I kind of categorize it as hard skills. Narcissists are really good at hard skills, but the soft skills, they're terrible. They don't collaborate. They don't have empathy. They don't know how to build rapport. Like those are soft skills that leaders and employees in an organization must have. I mean, it's crucial because that's how you get the best work from your teams, is the soft skills.
Who's a celebrity or public figure that you see having narcissistic traits?
Oh my gosh. I mean, all of Hollywood. The political space. I mean,
Like most politicians, I feel like.
100%. I have experienced it, just being in litigation, a lot of lawyers, judges. I mean, just think about the powerful seats that people sit in. There's just so many people that are in high levels of power positions that are very narcissistic.
As I was thinking this through, I was thinking about like times that I've seen it really strong, times that I wasn't sure, times that I was kind of on the fence. If you're on the fence, would you advise people to lean towards their narcissistic or towards their not?
I mean, I don't know. That's a tough
You
question.
really need to like really go through the process and really make that decision,
Yeah.
because you don't want to be wrong when you put someone in that category, right?
No. I mean, I think documenting is the best way to really keep yourself in a space where you're really understanding what's happening in front of you and how you want to report that, whether it's if you're in a divorce, if it's court, if you're in a company, it's HR. Those are places where you have to document very carefully so that you know how to analyze that narcissist to its fullest.
What about the like military space and like all that? Like I think of like drill sergeants and,
Yeah.
it's like, how do you navigate that? Because it's a very like masculine, very like, rah, do this, do that. Like, and of course, I'm not, shitting on our military, but like, I feel like a lot of people I've talked to, they just kind of navigate these narcissistic leaders inside our military. And I've actually heard several friends be like, that was awful to go through and I can't wait to get out. And it's an interesting concept.
That's a tough one because I think when you think about the military, the roles underneath the leader, they're very submissive. And that's kind of the way that the pyramid is built. So, whereas in a corporation or something, it's like we're all like branches on a tree, feeding up to a leader. We're all like helping. We're not submissive, we're helpers. Whereas in the military, I feel like you're more submissive. You're in a more submissive role. So that's a complicated one that I haven't really studied. But that one I think would be very difficult.
Yeah, because I have no idea, right? I'm not in the military and I've never experienced any of that, but I have a couple friends who have exited and just kind of what you're saying, I think they felt
Yeah.
in a way, and I have no idea. So I was just curious kind of what your take on it, or if you worked with a client that thought that or whatnot, because
Yeah.
I'm thinking it through and I'm like, I just don't have enough knowledge around it,
I think the formula is probably going to be the same. Document your experiences. If they are abusing their power, because all narcissists abuse their power. So if that leader is abusing their power, you document, and then you report that to whoever is ahead of that leader. It would probably be the same way. Now, in terms of how lenient or strict, I feel like in the military, I don't feel like there's a lot of room for that. So it feels like, I don't know, oppressive.
Yeah. As we wrap up, my last question for you is, out of everything you've learned around this topic of narcissism, your experiences working with Rebecca, reading, seminars, I know you're very well educated on this. Is there anything that you want to leave the audience, someone who's in a relationship or at work, anything that we might not have gone over in the last episode or this episode that could help them, navigate this? I know you have such a wide range of knowledge.
Yeah.
Is there anything that's on your heart that you just want to share with the audience before we wrap up?
I would say, really, now that everybody understands what the narcissistic abuse cycle looks like, and if you feel like you're navigating really toxic relationships, really try to understand that. Because if you can understand that, then you can figure out a way how to navigate your way out of it in a safe way. Because let's be honest, when you get out of a relationship with a narcissist, it is destructive. We talked about this. They are on a mission to destroy your life, and that likely will happen. But please understand, it's only temporary. Their destruction doesn't always win. If you can educate yourselves and equip yourself with the tools that you need to understand what that abuse cycle looks like and get out, then you can move on with your life and then understand what safe people look like and not getting in relationships with people that are unsafe.
Thank you so much for just sharing your knowledge with our audience and just always showing up so well prepared and educated.
Aw.
And it's always an amazing opportunity to have a discussion with you.
Thanks, Jim. I really enjoyed being here, and it's good to see you again. Thanks so much.